The Kelthari Military Academy had produced generals. Not metaphorically, not in the loose, honorific sense that some institutions use the word. The Kelthari Academy had produced, in its 400-year history, 61 theater commanders, 19 fleet admirals, and 3 beings who had ended wars by walking into rooms and saying very little. Its entrance examination was the stuff of legend across 11 species. The physical trial alone had a completion rate of 31% among Kelthari applicants, and the Kelthari were built for it, their species averaging 2.4 meters of dense, multi-jointed physiology that had evolved on a high-gravity world where everything that wasn't trying to eat you was trying to crush you under its own weight. Non-Kelthari applicants had a completion rate of 4%. In the Academy's 4 centuries, exactly 2 non-Kelthari beings had ever graduated. This year, for the first time, a human had applied. The admissions board had approved it in under 5 minutes. Not out of generosity. Out of the particular institutional curiosity that comes from 400 years of certainty being tapped lightly on the shoulder by something unexpected. They wanted to see how long she lasted. Seraphine Voss arrived the night before examinations. She was 26 years old, 1.7 meters tall, and had the compact stillness of something that had learned, long ago, not to waste energy on things that didn't matter. She had a duffel bag, a pair of worn boots, and a document folder containing her application, which the admissions AI had flagged 3 separate times for irregularities, not because anything was falsified, but because several of the things listed should not have been survivable. She checked in. She ate dinner alone in the candidate mess, where 14 Kelthari applicants looked at her with expressions ranging from confusion to something that translated, roughly, as well, this will be brief. She went to bed at 9:30. She slept. This, later, would be identified as the first thing she did that no one else in the candidate pool had managed. The others had spent the night reviewing materials, running nervous calculations, tossing on their cots in the aggressive insomnia of the overprepared. Seraphine slept 8 hours without interruption and woke up 4 minutes before her alarm. Ryland was the senior examination proctor. He had held the position for 11 years. He was Kelthari, old enough to have seen the Academy's edge cases, the prodigies who burned out on day 2, the steady ones who ground their way through, the rare, strange ones who seemed to operate by different physics entirely. He watched the candidates assemble in the pre-dawn dark of the physical trial staging area and did what he always did. He sorted them in his head. Not cruelly. Professionally. This one would make it to the wall climb. That one would hit the threshold during the weighted carry. The 2 in the back were going to flame out at the water crossing. He found the human at the end of the second row and revised his estimate. She wasn't warming up. Everyone else was doing the standard pre-exertion routines. Joint rotations, muscle activation, the visible ritual of convincing your body that what you were about to ask of it was reasonable. Seraphine was standing still. Not nervous still. Not statue still. The particular still of something that was paying complete attention to everything around it without needing to perform readiness. She'd cataloged the course layout, Ryland realized. Her eyes had moved across it once, methodically, and then returned to center. She was done preparing. She'd been done for a while. Interesting, Ryland thought. He raised the starting signal. Begin. Afterward, in the debrief, someone would ask Ryland to describe exactly what happened. He would take a moment before answering. Not because he'd forgotten. Because he was still, weeks later, organizing it into language that didn't sound like something he'd invented. She moved, he would say, before the word finished. Not a flinch. Not a reflex. A decision, already made, that simply waited for the signal to become legal. The first obstacle was the wall, 4 meters of smooth composite that required a running approach, a precise jump to reach the grip line, and enough upper body strength to haul yourself over the top. The Kelthari candidates had trained for it for months. The fastest among them, a young male named Dirac who'd been the top applicant in pre-screening, hit the base of the wall at full sprint and made it look exactly as difficult as it was. Seraphine hit the base of the wall at full sprint and went up it like the wall had personally offended her and she intended to settle the matter quickly. She was over the top before Dirac's feet left the ground on his jump. The next section was the weighted carry, a loaded pack, 80% of candidate body weight, 300 meters of broken terrain. The calculation for a Kelthari candidate factored in their baseline strength-to-weight ratio, their endurance profile, the tactical advantage of their multi-joint limb structure on uneven ground. For a human, the numbers were not favorable. Seraphine picked up the pack, settled it, and moved. She didn't run. Running with that load on that terrain was the wrong answer. Rylan knew this, had watched candidates blow their knees learning this, had written it into the assessment rubrics. The correct answer was a specific, controlled movement, ground reading, weight management, short explosive steps on the technical sections, and longer ground-eating strides on the open flats. She did that. Exactly that. Without anyone having told her. Later, reviewing the footage, Rylan would trace her foot placement step by step and find that she had chosen the optimal line through the terrain almost every time. Not the textbook line, the actual optimal line, which was different in 7 places and required reading the ground in real time rather than pattern matching to a memorized route. She hit the end of the weighted carry and kept moving. The water crossing was a fast-moving channel, 3 meters wide, crossed by a series of rope lines at varying heights that required candidates to assess, choose, and commit. The wrong choice meant a swim in current cold enough to significantly impair subsequent performance. Seraphine looked at the lines for approximately 1 second. She crossed in 4 movements. Rylan's stopwatch, which he'd stopped trusting around the 2-minute mark, showed her clearing the water crossing while the lead Kelthary candidate was finishing the weighted carry. The final section was the assessment room. Every candidate who completed the physical course was escorted here, regardless of time. Inside, a tactical scenario displayed on a holographic table. A problem set. A timer. Candidates were given the scenario, told to analyze it, and asked to present their solution to the examiner, Rylan, within 15 minutes. The scenario this cycle was a 3-force engagement problem. Friendly unit pinned in a valley. 2 hostile forces converging from different vectors. Terrain variables. Ammunition variables. Communication degraded. 6 potential solutions visible in the data, ranging from defensible to optimal, with 1 trap, an option that looked efficient but collapsed under second-order analysis. In 11 years, Rylan had seen candidates choose the trap 30% of the time. He'd seen candidates take the full 15 minutes regularly. He'd seen the occasional flash of genuine tactical intuition. Seraphine walked in, looked at the holographic table, and said, "The secondary ridge." Rylan looked up from his notes. "Explain." "Pull back to the secondary ridge at grid 7. Use the converging hostile vectors. They'll create a crossfire problem for each other in the valley approach. You don't need to fight both forces. You need to be in the position where they fight each other and you control the high ground exit." "Timeline," Rylan said. "Hostile force Alpha reaches engagement range in 11 minutes. You have 8 minutes to move, which is tight, but the western slope of the ridge has covered the whole way, so you're not exposed during reposition." She paused. "The ammunition variables don't matter for this solution. You're not trying to win the firefight. You're trying to not be in one." Rylan looked at his assessment sheet. The secondary ridge solution was the optimal answer. Not the most obvious. Not the one that jumped out from the data. The one that required understanding what the problem was actually asking. Which was not how do you defeat 2 forces, but how do you avoid being the thing 2 forces are aimed at. He had given this scenario to 143 candidates. 11 of them had found the secondary ridge. None of them had found it in under 90 seconds. "Time from scenario display to solution," Rylan said, without looking up from the sheet. He was writing. "I wasn't timing myself," Seraphine said. 44 seconds, Rylan said. "I was." The room was quiet. Seraphine didn't look surprised. She looked like someone who had done the thing they came to do and was waiting, patiently, to find out what came next. Rylan submitted his assessment that evening. The scoring section was straightforward. Numbers went in boxes, calculations resolved, a ranking emerged. That part took him 6 minutes. The narrative assessment took him an hour. He rewrote the opening 3 times. Every version started with the word exceptional or unprecedented and felt insufficient, which meant it was the wrong word. He was a military man. He believed in precision. He deleted the openings. He started again. Candidate Voss completed the physical trial in a time that will require recalibration of the assessment metrics, as current metrics were not designed to accommodate results at this range. She completed the tactical scenario in 44 seconds with a correct optimal solution. These facts are documented in the attached scoring. What the scoring does not document is the following. She was still before the signal. Not waiting, ready. These are different states. Waiting requires the signal to create the action. Readiness means the action exists already, fully formed, requiring only permission. Every problem she was given, she had already solved before she was formally asked to solve it. The physical course, she read it in the staging area and had her strategy before the word was spoken. The tactical scenario, she identified the secondary ridge before she finished looking at the data. I have proctored this examination for 11 years. I have seen fast candidates, strong candidates, strategically gifted candidates. I have not previously seen a candidate for whom the examination appeared to be happening slightly in the past. She is not faster than our best candidates in the way that one athlete is faster than another. She appears to operate in a different relationship to time, specifically to the time between perceiving a problem and acting on a solution. In our best candidates, this interval is short. In candidate Voss, it is not detectable. I do not have a framework for this. I am noting it because I believe it is important, and because I have learned, in 11 years, to note the things I do not have frameworks for. Recommend, admission, immediate. The admissions board reviewed Ryland's report. The board chair, Admiral Thessan, 70 years old, 3 wars, the kind of experience that had long ago stopped being impressed by most things, read the narrative section twice. She picked up her comm. Ryland, she said. Admiral, the part where you say you don't have a framework for it. Yes. In 11 years, have you written that before? A pause. No, Ryland said. Admiral Thessan set down the comm and looked out her office window at the pre-dawn dark of the Academy grounds, where the next cycle of candidates would arrive in a few months. She thought about 400 years of generals, 61 theater commanders, 19 fleet admirals, 3 beings who had ended wars by walking into rooms. She thought about a human woman who had completed a trial before anyone else moved. She signed the admission. Then she added her own note to the file. 1 line, flag personal, not for official record. Watch this one. Not because she needs watching. Because the rest of us need to see what comes next.